Focus. Everybody has the dock up.
Yeah.
It's all business now. Is everybody
All right.
ready for all this? Fantasy football is serious.
Wando.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Football Absurdity Podcast. My name is Jeff Crisco, and I'm here with my co-hosts Walker Kelly and Mike Valverde. And today we are here with a special guest. It's Herms. If you know fantasy football Twitter, you know Herms NFL. Herms, how are you going today?
This is happening.
It's happening.
Oh man, I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Herms.
Hell yeah, man.
I gotta pay you back for when you had me on the lateral, which I'd like to say the last episode before you guys started putting them up on YouTube. I'm not bitter or anything. It doesn't stick in my craw.
I'm so sorry. We'll have to remedy this at some point. Although I think StreamYard only saves files for like 15 days or something. So perhaps that ship has sailed. But yeah, I can find a way to pirate it off of my own Periscope. I don't know.
I think that's long since sailed. So let's do this. Since I'll probably forget, let me get the business out of the way, and then we'll get into this. So today's episode is our first division preview. We are doing the AFC North. Since Herms is a Steelers fan, that's why he's going to be on today. We're going to be doing these over the next 8 weeks. We're going to have guests on the main feed. Every other episode will be on the Patreon feed, patreon.com/footballabsurdity, and those will fit in there. Our upcoming guests are going to be in a couple weeks. We're going to do the NFC North with RotoSurgeon, Kevin Masurgeon, and then we're going to be doing the AFC West a couple weeks after that with Lindell. At Lindellians. It's the Twitter handle. That's what throws me off. She will be helping us out doing the AFC West. Big surprise this morning. Beer sheets went up. Kevin was just messaged us. It was like, oh yeah, by the way, beer sheets are ready. They're up on the site. We were like, what? Because we were working on some back end stuff to like do some stability things. And he's like, oh, we're ready. I was like, okay, beer sheets are ready. That's a go. So he's going to be on Twitch on Wednesday, twitch.tv/footballabsurdity. We're going to go through a draft with a beer sheet. And then that's going to be up on our YouTube. That's also going to be linked on the beer sheets landing page. So everybody can use a beer sheet. I do have to message him to get my special Scott Fishbowl 11 beer sheet so I can beat everybody. Because I was in it in 19 and I made the playoffs. He was drafting off of beer sheet. So I'd like to do that again.
Slapping table. Beer sheets. Beer sheets.
Beer sheets. Oh,
man. Player profiles are up on the site. We're starting those this week. We got 20 quarterbacks up this week. We're going to have 35 running backs go up next week, and so on and so forth. So business out of the way. Now it's party time. Herms.
Yeah.
How's it going, buddy? How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Although shout out beer sheets, because before I ever joined fantasy Twitter, I originally messed around a little bit on fantasy football Reddit. Mm-hmm. And that's how I first found out about that. So, like, dude, super helpful. Super big fan of beer sheets. So shout out beer sheets.
Yeah, and if you don't know what beer sheets are, first of all, I don't know how you got here without knowing what beer sheets are for the listeners. Fully customizable cheat sheets that come based off of aggregate projections. And they're completely free. I think that's why everybody loves them so much, because they're good and they're free. So yeah, those are up on the site. You can get them right now. Footballabsurdity.com. I'll put a link to the beer sheets request line as soon as this motorcycle goes by.
Jesus.
Somebody's living next door to Sam. Are you living next door to Sam Crow? What's going on here?
I don't know. That doesn't usually happen.
Riding through this world.
Yeah. All right, Herms. So let's get into talking about you. Talk about Herms. So you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Do you like any other sports? What are your fandoms? Let's start there.
Oh, well, my favorite sport is baseball. Definitely. Although I've sacrificed following baseball in order to be a content creator. So it's disappointing. But at the same time, I don't know. It is what it is. So shout out the Washington Nationals. Despite the fact that I root for the Pittsburgh football franchise, I am from the greater DC area. So DC sports with that, so the Nationals for baseball and then the Capitals for hockey. And I mean, basketball is okay, I guess. I mean, college is a little more popular around here than professional, but like, I don't know. I guess, gun to my head, it's like, sure, Bradley Beal, go Wizards, I guess. But like, I couldn't care less. But yeah, so I mean that's definitely where I'm. And also, I do have a strange relationship with the Washington football team. It's it's really something.
And I just would like to say the same screwed up thing I did with the PCP episode I just did with this one. So shout out to me for getting to start to record on the OBS. So big shout out to me. So this episode's gonna be a little funky. The same thing I got mad about before the episode I did again. Good for me, everybody. So right. I'm great at this. So Herms, let's start this. Where can the people? Here's an easier question. Where can people not find you? Because you're everywhere. Everywhere I turn, there's Herms doing something.
Oh, well, where you cannot find me is the people who have somehow come across me and tried to add me as a friend on Facebook. I don't want to spend time there anymore. Like, it's nothing against anybody in particular. It's just like, yo, the only reason I still have a Facebook account is so that my mom doesn't feel personally offended that I deleted it. So it's just like, every now and then it'll be like, hey, could you please go in there and like my photo? I'm like, sure, mom, of course.
No, why not?
Of course, like, no problem. Because, I mean, it's my mom, of course, like, shout out Mama Herms. But, like, just, yeah, that is where you cannot find me.
Okay, yeah. And Herms, people are always like, Jeff, you're always so mad at the world. You need to get off Twitter. You're so wrapped up in politics and stuff. Do you know what saved my brain? It's getting off of Facebook. Because Twitter, it's like I'm just taking out I can't yell at my friends' stupid opinions on Facebook, so I go yell at strangers on Twitter. Is what ends up happening.
It is way more healthy that way, especially. Oh my god, just like yelling at people on Twitter, especially like people within the community that I live in. Like, oh my gosh, like some of like the comment section of like our local newspaper is like so toxic. I'm pretty sure like if we poured it on the world, it would melt the entire earth. Like
that's every local section though. That's the next. Excuse me. I chugged a Rockstar before the episode. Walker called me out on it. Now I'm burping. But my local next door, it's like I got an argument with the guy because he's like, what we need to do is sit outside the grocery stores, and if we see somebody stealing alcohol, we like tackle him. I'm like, that's assault. I'm like, what you're talking about is assault. Like, and he got really mad. So don't go on next door either. All right. So Herms, what's your fantasy journey? Where you popped up, what was it last off season? All of a sudden Herms started being everywhere. And so what got you onto fantasy football and onto fantasy Twitter, I guess?
Well, I mean, I've told this story before, but the whole like there was a camp that my 5th grade history teacher ran every summer until he ultimately retired from teaching. It was a fantasy sports camp. So I did that from ages 9 to 17 every single summer, sometimes multiple times a summer, just because, like, I don't know. It's one of those things, like, my older brother was part of it because, I don't know, I guess, like, he had the same teacher for math, and it was something he, like, integrated into, his math curriculum. And it was just like, hey, if you guys, have fun playing these games, I offer the thing during summer. So it's like, it's as anybody with siblings has experienced or whatever, especially if you have an older sibling, it's like, at a certain age, it's like whatever they're doing, it's like, oh, I want to do it. So, I followed him there, and I ended up having a really great time doing that. And we were taught like fantasy baseball, football, basketball, hockey, and fantasy golf.
Oh man.
And yeah, and I know this is not really conducive to the audio format, but yeah, I got a 15-year-old bottle of Yoo-Hoo.
Jeez
that
Louise.
Is my baseball head-to-head playoff champion 2006. This is the first fantasy trophy I've ever won. So, yep. all of the quote-unquote trophies are just food items. So I just have like this bucket of expired food that's been sitting in my room for ages.
Slowly rotting. Your trophies are slowly rotting.
Now what you should have to do is the punishment for being last place in the league is if you have won it before, you have to consume all of your previous trophies.
Oh, man. If I go through and just put together a fantasy sports camp alumni league, that would, those stakes are very high, man. Because my teacher ran that camp from like the late 80s through like the early 10s. So
just people of all ages just chugging various rotten foods. Sounds like a plan. So all right, Herms, what fantasy football or fantasy baseball guy, I guess this question doesn't really work because it was a journey for you, but who made you fall in love with fantasy? Was it like, for me, it was every year I drafted Brian Westbrook and Tiki Barber, and that got me really hooked on fantasy football.
Man, because when I started playing, LaDainian Tomlinson was the dude. So this is like, if the whole thing at the camp was just like, I want to get the first pick so I can take LaDainian Tomlinson, because I mean, like, there were some kids, because it was around the time when, like, taking a quarterback in the first round was like still more acceptable for like single QB leagues. But yeah, either way, like, it was like one of three players would get picked first. It would, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, or the best answer, LaDainian Tomlinson. So just like, plus, like, not even just in fantasy, but also just like real life. I mean, like, he doesn't rank like super high in my all-time favorite players, just because, like, from when I was a kid, my favorite players were either on the football team or the Steelers. But I mean, dude, just shout out LaDainian Tomlinson. If you're listening to this, please, I would like to meet you in person and give you a hug. That would be super great. I will give you. I only have like $15 max. But, I mean, I think that's an acceptable hug fee. So that's just me.
So, LaDainian Tomlinson, if you're listening, please do something better with your time. You're a millionaire former athlete. Please don't.
I did LaDainian Tomlinson, if you're listening, I did a project on you in 6th grade.
Shout out.
Same to me and Dr. J in 4th grade, if you're listening, Dr. J.
There we go.
All right, Herms. Last question for you before Mike, who's been quiet. He's been contemplating because he asked the hard question this week. But for me, what player is your hashtag brand this season, and why is it Ronald Jones? And why have you convinced me that Ronald Jones is a good call?
Donald Rones.
Dude, because I mean, it was like November or something, and I would just like, I kept seeing so many people just like saying really like weirdly disparaging things about Ronald Jones's talent, and I was just like, I mean, I get that as a rookie, it was weird, and his career's been off to a strange start, but like, he's really good, right? And then it would just be like, no, he's terrible. I'm like, when did we just decide this? And it got me like really like pissed off once. And then I think like that Sunday, I can't remember like what game it was or who it was against, but like, he scored a couple touchdowns or something, and I just like tweeted out in all caps like, do not besmirch the name of Rojo. And I just like, I bookmarked it because I was like, this could be a fun bit. And then it evolved into me genuinely really just being like, wait a minute, I'm on to something.
Yeah.
Hold up. No, Ronald Jones is really good. Like, because, I mean, I understand, like, there's a weird, like, especially people who play, like, half PPR or full PPR, there's a weird bias against players who can't catch the ball at all, as if that is, like, the only thing that props up a running back's value, despite the fact that the word running is in the name of the position. Anyway, but, like, but he's a really good rusher. And I'm just like, dude, you know what? This is just my guy now, because I hate the rhetoric around Ronald Jones. It makes no sense, and like, especially when people are like, oh, well, I wish the Buccaneers would just trust him. I'm like, dude, he, like, in 14 games, 13 games started, like, he almost like went over 200 carries last year. Like, he did way more than Leonard Fournette did. Like, yeah. What are people talking about? Like, that whole thing, has been broken. Because it's like, it's not like he's, splitting the time bizarrely with Peyton Barber anymore. Like, those days are gone, dude. Like, whatever. I don't know. Like, it started as a bit, but then it just became a genuine thing.
Yeah, and it's so funny. Yeah. People are like, oh, playoff Lenny. And it's the same thing they're doing with Cam Akers, where it's like, well, he was good the last time I saw him, therefore he's the best one there. And it's like, well, not necessarily. But what's funny
I've heard this song many times, and it's a good song, but the ending really falls off.
it's if you bet on the last thing you saw, it's you can be like, well, I got tricked. But if you're like, well, I'm gonna set aside the last thing I saw and go back, that's when you're like, oh, I'm wrong. I guess I did this wrong. And I'm starting to believe in Ronald Jones. And Walker, you tweeted out, if you're in on Myles Gaskin, you're not in on Ronald Jones, you're doing it wrong. And I was just like, come on. So
Yes.
I combined both Jeff and Herm's brain, Germ's brain.
Walker just used facts and logic to make Herms into a Myles Gaskin fan and me into a Ronald Jones fan.
That's right.
All right, Mike, you've been oddly quiet because you've been scheming. So, Herms, this is your first episode. We do pick your poison, which was football player stuff in the past. But Mike's like, you know what? I want people to be able to get to know us and to learn things. So, Mike is one step away from being Jigsaw, asking us if we want to play a game. Because 2 weeks ago he asked, "What's our most useless skill?" This time he's asking, "What's our biggest fear?" And I'm feeling next week we're all gonna get knocked out and we're gonna end up, chained together in a bathroom, Saw style. So, Mike, it's your question. We'll start with you. What is your biggest fear? And then we can use that against you when you kidnap us.
So I guess my biggest fear is small airplanes. I will not get on an airplane, especially a small one. I hate flying. I do not fly. I mean that when the football what do you call it, expo, fantasy football expo started, I got so excited, and then my second thought was, oh, I got to get on a plane. So not even COVID. I put COVID behind flying, and therefore my biggest fear is anytime I get on an airplane.
So you mentioned a small airplane specifically. I used to work at an airport. So we did 78 seaters, 50 seaters, and 37 seaters. Do you want me to make you never want to get onto a 37 seater ever again?
None of those numbers are very, very good to me at all. Even the 70, no, none of those. None of those are going to work. I do not trust an airplane that can barely fly by itself. It's just not going to happen.
First flight of the day. I had to be at work at 4:45 a.m. First flight of the day. It was a 37 seater. It was a prop plane. We had to literally count the number of people in the plane, the number of bags, and do math to make sure that when the plane took off, it did not get too back heavy and go up and then just fall back down out of the sky. Oops, as I smack my mic. And we were all either tired or hungover while doing it. Because it was mostly college kids that were doing it. So we were all either tired or hungover doing this at 4:40. Or I guess the flight was at 6 a.m. in the morning. So as opposed to 6 a.m. at night. But Mike, that'll really make you want to get onto a 37 seater.
Oh yeah, now I'm all about it. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mike, I flew in a 3-seater from Santa Barbara to Sacramento once.
Guys, it's you thought you were tuning into a fantasy football podcast, but it turns out that you are now learning that hungover teenagers are in charge of like the entire world.
I was 22. All
right,
right,
hungover college kids.
Herms, what's your biggest fear? Eventually we'll talk football. Don't worry.
Yes, my biggest fear. I don't know. Like, I got a lot of fears, man. So, I don't know. Hand germs, that's up there for me. Not quite on like Howie Mandel levels, but I had hand sanitizer in my car well before the pandemic started. There's that. Weird clowns. Not all clowns, but just weird clowns. Like there are just certain clowns that like they give you a vibe and you're like, I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like that type of, yeah. So definitely that, I don't know, being alone forever. That's definitely one of them, more of an existential thing. But,
that's smart. Mike can't kidnap you and lock you in a room with the concept of being alone. So that's a smart.
Yeah, there you go. See? And plus, like I will occasionally put myself in that mental prison when I'm not doing super well anyway. So joke's on you.
Checkmate.
But, yeah, and then I don't know, just like the threat of global warming, just like really, I mean, dude, I really don't want to be alive when all of that really comes to its pinnacle. Because, like, dude, that uninhabitable wasteland is not going to be fun. So, man, imagine that.
Looking forward to the water wars. Really looking forward to the water wars. And I forgot to mention, shout out Zeitgang Herms. They were talking about that this morning on the Daily Zeitgeist, a podcast Herms and I both listened to, and it definitely didn't make me feel better about everything. That's for sure.
Not at all. Not at all. But I mean, I absolutely adore anybody who's ever come across that show. You know, just shout out Miles, shout out Jack if you're listening.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this, we love you.
If you're listening, let me on the podcast.
Give give Herms a hug. It's $15.
That's right.
Exactly. Yes.
Please. Let me on the podcast. So, all right, Walker, what is yours? What is your biggest fear? Welcome to the Football Absurdity Fearcast.
Yeah. Ball absurdity.
We have fear sheets available for you.
In terms of like normal stuff to be afraid of, it's just like being high up in the air. Like heights are not great for me. But if you want the weird specific answer, which I can go up an escalator. I cannot go down an escalator.
What?
Yeah.
Are you President Donald J. Trump? You're scared of it?
Folks, you can't. Going down the escalator, can't do it. You see, you're looking down. You see.
How do you not fall? How do you not fall?
You see where you might fall,
yeah.
And we can't have that, folks. We can't have people falling off the escalator. You go up, you can see where it's going. You got the handrail, you'll be fine. You look down, splat. Look like an ice cream cone fell out of your hand.
Very sad. Very sad.
Speaking of,
but it's okay.
You go Baskin Robbins. What's your favorite flavor? But yeah, I just. If I can see what I'm gonna fall onto if I fall, and there's no like barrier, then it's just a big time no-go for me. And so going up the escalator, I'm just like, well, I started on the ground, and then I'm just like, it's basically just like going up a flight of stairs. So that I'm like, man, whatever. But going down, I see like the ground below me and nothing between me and the ground. And I'm just like, yeah, that's not happening.
So you're not afraid of stairs. It's falling twice as fast down it is what scares you.
I think I'm just afraid of like falling more than like 6 feet and smacking into the ground.
Oh yeah, I can see that. I can see that. So let's see. What's my biggest fear? I'm afraid of nothing. No, I'm afraid of failure, which is fun. That's always my answer. Is I'm afraid of failing. I'm afraid that.
Jeff is afraid of being thought of as lazy.
That's actually probably a pretty good answer if we're being really honest here. I had an anxiety attack today because I dared take the afternoon off yesterday, and I was like, "I have so much to do. You're so stupid. Why did you take yesterday off?" So
self-care.
Yeah, I know. I keep telling myself. I read a whole book about it called Peak Performance. Yeah, self-care is great. I'm the first person to be like. I'll be like, Walker, it's fine. Take care of yourself. Mike, it's fine. Take care of yourself. Herms, you post, and I'm like, buddy, you're fine. Don't worry about it. Take care of yourself. Me, I'm like, I don't get that leeway. I gotta push and push and push and push. And then when I'm done with that, I gotta push harder. Thanks. All right. Thanks for tuning in to fantasy football therapy hour. We'll be back next week. Next week we'll talk about our relationships with our parents and how that made us who we are today.
This has been Dr. Walker Kelly.
All right. Enough of that. Enough of I'm really afraid the abyss is going to stare back. So we gotta switch to football. So this is our first, like I said at the top, first division preview episode we are going to do. And I realized I put NFC North in the Twitch. I am just killing it today. This is what happens when you do too much.
American Football Conference.
American.
It's the North American.
North American.
Perfect.
Perfect terms. Thank you. This is the AFC, the American Football Conference North Division, as I put it. So we'll just go team by team, position group by position group, just kind of talk about what we expect here. and what we can do for them. I added the Fantasy Pros ADP. Don't get mad if it's wrong or if you think it's wonky. There's not much here in this division that's like that except for Najee, which is way off. Najee is RB21 in this, so that's wrong. Yeah, he's going half that. Like he's going like 10, 11,
even
12.
Even if you do a mock on Fantasy Pros, like the lowest he'll ever go is I think 208, and he usually goes in like the early second.
Yeah, so this is
every time.
Which sounds about right to me.
Yeah, that's way wrong. So it's going to take a little bit of time for it to equalize, but once it gets there, it gets there. So we'll start with alphabetically. As a Steelers fan, I'm sure this is your favorite team, the Baltimore Ravens. Herms, they were 11 and 5 in 2020. 2021, they're projected for 11 wins. That's their over-under in Vegas. They added Rashad Bateman, Sammy Watkins at wide receiver, Kevin Zeitler at guard. They lost, in air quotes, Mark Ingram because they had him inactive and then got rid of him. Matt Skura on the offensive line and Willie Snead. So, Mike, you stay silent on Lamar Jackson. That's where we're going to start. We know how you feel about Lamar Jackson. He's not a good passer. He's not. Shh. Herms, what do you expect for Lamar Jackson this season? What do you think?
I have him as my QB1 overall, so
Hey!
I guess.
I'm leaving now.
Mike's out of here.
I mean,
Mike's logging out.
Dude,
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoy having an RB2 that also throws. So, I mean, like, yeah, it's. I get that the beginning of last season was frustrating, but I think a lot of that really boiled down to the fact that the Ravens were trying to get a little too cute with things and like, we'll be unpredictable. It's just like, I don't know, like it's like being in middle school and you're just like, you know what? I'm just going to start dressing all edgy now. And you try it out for like 4 days and then you're just like, nope, not feeling this. Let's go back to the regular wardrobe. I enjoyed that a lot more. Yeah. And then it's like, I'm comfortable again. Cool, great. And then things go better for you. Like, because you're comfortable. Like, once they went back and, kind of let Lamar do his thing, like, it went pretty well, didn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So, like, dude, they're not going to overthink this one.
No, I don't think so either. And I'm going to ask you a question, and this is something that Walker and Mike pushed back on. Is it insane for Lamar Jackson to throw the ball 37 times per game?
27,
not 37, 27, sorry.
37, yeah.
37's nuts, but we got into a knockdown drag out over if he's going to throw it 27 or 25 times per game.
I mean, they invested quite a bit in the receiver core. I don't think it's that insane for it to be 27. And plus, I mean, that's a fairly negligible difference.
Yes, thank you. That was my point.
That's honestly the main point here is that I don't know why I was so adamant about arguing about that.
Also, another thing to lay into your lap, Mike and Walker. He averaged 27.6 pass attempts per game before he got COVID last year. Just saying. Just saying.
Yeah.
All right.
He's going to average 26.5, and that's the last I want to hear about.
If he averages 26.5, I'm calling that a win because I only recognize two significant figures here. Only two sig figs, buddy. That's 27 if you do 26.5. So we'll skip over the running backs for now. Herms, you mentioned the wide receiver core. Walker, why don't you talk to us about this wide receiver core? We got Marquise Brown, Rashad Bateman, Sammy Watkins week 1, Tylan Wallace. Tylan Wallace, people are getting spicy, but I don't think he's that good. What do you think we should expect out of this wide receiver core this year? And is there anybody in here that you're drafting at their draft price?
Yeah, honestly, I've been doing some mocks, and Rashad Bateman's price is pretty appealing right now. Honestly, I have him wide receiver 51 in my projections currently. And doing mocks on Fantasy Pros, and he's typically going in that like wide receiver 60 range. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like a tier below where I have him. So I've been picking him up as a bench piece quite a bit. I don't think he's going to be a huge point guy, but I think he'll be kind of that like consistent, you can throw him in your flex and he's not going to kill you type. Brown will obviously be the more kind of like popping off every now and then dude, but I don't think it's going to be predictable enough to really be useful.
Yeah.
And so I would take Bateman over Brown straight up, and Brown's going earlier right now, and I don't think that should be the case. I think Bateman's the best player in that receiving core. Sammy Watkins, he'll be fine, I guess, when he's healthy.
Week one star. He'll star in week one. Yeah,
he'll probably play like 9 games. And where do I have Tylen? Probably nowhere near anything.
Wide receiver 90.
I just want to see the number. Like, I love Tylen Wallace, the football player, but I have him as wide receiver 145.
Woo!
There it is, folks.
That's Analyst Depot for you. Have you used Analyst Depot, Herms, for your projections? Have you played with it at all?
Candidly, I have no idea what it is.
Oh man, it basically just walks you through doing projections, and but the problem is you end up with stuff like Travis Fulgham is my wide receiver 116.
No, I have 164 receivers projected. Can you guess who 164 is? I'll give you a hint. He's on Dallas.
160. Is it who's their wide receiver for? I don't even know.
That dude, I don't. What's his name? They drafted him in like the 4th round or something this year, and everybody was like, "Why?" What's that? Tear the Band-Aid off. Who is it?
Yeah, just do it.
Simi Fehoko.
Oh yeah, Fehoko. Yeah. I couldn't find Tylen Wallace because I was looking up Nylan Wallace. Again, I don't know why I keep doing that. This is like the 3rd time I've tried to look up Nylan Wallace.
This MF looked up Nylan Wallace.
All right, boys. So
if he was a basketball player, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, Nylon Wall. Yeah. Well, I called him Nylon Walrus at some point too. So. All right. Let's move on to this running back room. So we got J.K. Dobbins. What'd you say?
Hey, before you do that, the Nylon Walrus. That's what they call a Nikola Jokic, because he's slow and he switches the ball.
He's slow. He switches the ball, and he's a big boy. I love Jokic. Shout out.
Good.
Shout out to basketball.
Yeah. Woo.
All right.
Shout out to big slow guys who are good.
Oh, I'm slow. I can give you that much. All right, this ship is harder to steer this time. Let's go running backs here. J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, RB14, RB40. Mike, you have not really talked much on this team yet. I haven't made you talk. So let's talk about this running back room. And I guess, Herms, we'll come to you after Mike talks about because you said something interesting about PPR, and I want to talk to you about that and J.K. Dobbins. But Mike, first, let's hear from you about this running back room.
I'm going back and forth with J.K. Dobbins. Part of me says they're still going to employ the Lamar Jackson, the Gus Edwards, the Justice Hill combination with J.K. Dobbins is killing his volume altogether, and he doesn't catch passes, so he's going to have to score touchdowns. There's no way he's going to be averaging over 5.5 yards per carry again this year, and so if that's the case, then just blow up J.K. Dobbins, and he'll never be on my team because people are going to be scratching the surface trying to get him at RB15 and those kind of things, and I just won't pay that price. But then there's another part of me that comes out that says, oh, look at 2019. Look at what Mark Ingram was in that situation. And I'm like, I could kind of see that with J.K. Dobbins. And I start getting excited about J.K. Dobbins. And Mark Ingram didn't catch passes either, but he scored a heck of a lot of touchdowns. And J.K. Dobbins can score a heck of a lot of touchdowns. So I don't know. I just very confused about what to do with J.K. Dobbins. So he has definitely top RB10 upside. And then he also has RB30 kind of value too. So throw it in the middle. And what do you get? RB14, RB15. And that's where I guess I'll go with him.
Okay. So what do you think about snagging Gus Edwards later on? Is that something that you're interested in doing? Is that format dependent? Because I like Gus Edwards.
I like Gus Edwards. Why not? Like RB40 where he's ranked, or even later than that? Because if J.K. Dobbins does go down and you have Gus Edwards, I don't think they're going to be turning to Justice Hill. So Gus Edwards, he's a good plotter. He's a good runner. He's going to get some good yards, but he's just that volume isn't there for him. But if Dobbins goes down, then of course that door completely wides open for Edwards. And if you have him, especially later down in the season where playoffs start and it really starts to matter for your fantasy team, that's when you want Edwards. And so if you draft Dobbins, take a flyer on Edwards later in the draft, and you won't have to worry about it.
All right.
Edwards also got a new contract, 2 years, $10 million this offseason, so they're committed to him for a good chunk of change.
Yeah. So, all right, I'll talk real quick about the tight end here, Mark Andrews. Take him or don't. Kind of how it feels. He's in that tier of tight ends where if you don't want to have to think about it, he's in there. But he's kind of touchdown dependent, but that's what the position is. Herms, I know in your recent episode of The Lateral, you talked about, well, you teased a tight end episode that's not out yet. So I'm going to come back to you to talk about Mark Andrews real quick and the tight end position in general.
Well, I mean, I'll trickle out a little bit of the research that we did, because obviously I can't, I don't want to tip the hand too much, because it would kind of wreck the whole purpose of the episode if I just unloaded all the notes. But I mean, as far as looking at like the things that I have come to value out of the tight end position through doing my analysis, I mean, like I like Mark Andrews. I don't really see why you, but even I'm going back and forth in my own head about it as I'm talking. I mean, like that's kind of the tricky part, because he has the things that you want, but I'm really one of those get the big three or just completely punt type of fantasy managers. Mm-hmm. So I mean, honestly, like in a home league, just with more casual people, like, I mean, sure, go for it. But if you're playing in, I guess, like a more quote unquote competitive league with, like other people who are, all high and mighty because we do the number stuff, then like, then it might be a good idea to not do the thing with Mark Andrews. I don't know. That was a super not eloquent way of saying shrug.
I was saying what I said. Yeah. Take him or don't.
Yeah. I would. The problem in home leagues for guys like us is that half the people in your home league will just use your own analysis to draft.
Right? Dude, in 2019, I was in an auction draft with people from my home league, and I was like, oh, let me kick in $1 on Mike Gesicki, and somebody upped me $4, and I was like, why do you like Mike Gesicki? He's like, because I read what you wrote about him. I was like, son of a... I was like... I was like the only person that was in on Mike Gesicki, and I got outbid on him. Like, if I had just kept my trap shut, I could have had him for cheap.
My dad and my friend Ashley will constantly snipe me in home draft because they're just like, yeah, you told me you liked this guy, and I was like, yeah, he seems pretty good.
So now I got Mike. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you. So this is what I think of Mark Andrews. Mm-hmm. I like Mark Andrews to be the top 5 tight end he is when Rashad Bateman is not on the field. If Rashad Bateman takes over that wide receiver 1 role, and there's only going to be room for a wide receiver 1 for the Ravens, then you're taking away that short to intermediate threat that Rashad Bateman is, and by using Marcus Brown, and that's why Mark Andrews is such a good receiver. He's not on the field enough to consistently count on him, and then if you throw Rashad Bateman, who's going to eat up that short to intermediate route, then Mark Andrews' value and his volume becomes very much less than what it is. But with Rashad Bateman spreading the field and opening it up, that's where Mark Andrews comes in as that short to intermediate receiver. So I think it all depends on who they're using the most. Is it going to be Marquise Brown or Rashad Bateman? If it's Rashad Bateman, I'd avoid Mark Andrews. If it's Marquise Brown, then he should finish where he normally does.
See, but my thing about that is he's a touchdowns guy, and even then he's a kind of a deeper ADOT guy. I paused a little bit because I had to look it up on Player Profile. He was 5th in ADOT among tight ends last year. He's not like he's not Logan Thomas. Go 6 yards and fall down. He goes 10 yards and falls down, and he had the highest air yard share of all tight ends last year. So it's like, there's that, and then he's also, like I said, a touchdown guy, 12% touchdown rate. Like that's fantastic. So 9 out of 12 guys weekly score a touchdown that are tight end ones. Like if you score a touchdown, you're a tight end one. That's kind of how it works. And so I'll take the guy who's getting lots of end zone targets. 5 red zone targets for him last year, or number 5 in red zone targets last year among tight ends. So I think the takeaway here is if you're taking Mark Andrews, you're probably taking a guy who might fall back, worst case scenario, as a touchdown or bust guy, and he has a good chance of getting a touchdown.
Yeah. If you draft Mark Andrews, you're not going to have to stream a tight end.
Yeah.
It's just that you might end up spending a 5th round pick on a guy who isn't really getting you that many points.
All right, so let's wrap this up real quick. I'm asking you guys a question. Andrews or Hawkinson?
Hawkinson. That's not even close.
Hawkinson.
Herms?
Oh, I got to scroll down my rankings. Here we go. Oh, jeez. Andrews.
Andrews. All right, next question. You guys know what it is. Rookie tight end. Andrews or Pitts?
Andrews.
Ooh, Pitts.
There you go.
Andrews by 1 point.
This guy hates Kyle Pitts so much.
1 point. Andrews is projected 177, and I have Pitts projected 176.
Yeah.
Disrespectful.
Absolutely garbage. Don't you know Kyle Pitts' floor is being Calvin Johnson, if you ask fantasy Twitter?
He's already the greatest player in NFL history.
He hasn't even played.
Yeah. He's already in the Hall of Fame. He's already there.
The only fun thing for me about Kyle Pitts immediately becoming like fantasy Twitter darling is that now we don't have to hear about Cole Kmet all the time anymore.
Shout out Cole Kmet. I was one of those people. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
And to sort of speak to your Mark Andrews only a touchdown guy, Mark Andrews finished 9th in receptions last year of tight ends.
So there you go.
It's only like 9 receptions away from like 3rd. So
okay,
he's more than just a touchdown.
Oh
guy.
No, I said worst case scenario. He's a touchdown guy because that's playing off of what you were saying about Bateman taking those targets. So it's like worst case scenario. Right. He still is the pass catcher in the end zone for the
that's
Ravens.
True.
That's worst case scenario. So I think our takeaway here is if you draft Mark Andrews, you might not be getting a top 5 guy, but you don't have to really dip into the blob. You can just roll with Mark Andrews all year. Yeah. So okay, let's move on. Let's move on from the Baltimore Ravens, a team that's good, to the Cincinnati Bengals, the team that probably isn't very good. They were 4-11-1 last year, picked top 5 in back-to-back years. 2021 projection is 6.5 wins. They had a Jamar Chase, Puka Williams, Riley Reif, and Chris Evans, who Mike got so flustered. He was like, we have to talk about Chris Evans. He was like, can we put him instead of Puka Williams? So they also lost Giovanni Bernard, AJ Green, John Ross. We're going to go out of order here because let's start with the wide receivers because that is like the place to talk about here is this wide receiver core. So I guess we'll start with this, which is who's going to finish with the most fantasy points? Just the name. Herms out of these 3 guys.
T. Higgins.
Wrong.
Walker.
Jamar Chase.
Mike.
I agree with Herms. It's T. Higgins.
Wrong.
I agree with Herms as well.
Wrong. You guys are all wrong. T. Higgins isn't very good.
All
Sorry.
Right. So
he's not very good.
Walker, you're the dissenter. Oh, wrong way. You're the dissenter. We'll start with you.
It isn't a way for me because I'm just in the top right corner.
Well, no, I'm looking at the OBS screen.
Okay.
I can put you guys wherever I want. So.
Yeah, fair. I don't think T. Higgins is that good. I know I have a slight bias from my draft analysis of him not being that great, and he was better than I expected. I will give him credit for that. He had a very solid rookie season. I am not saying he's a bad wide receiver whatsoever. He is better than Tyler Boyd. He will be the number 2 guy there. And I do have him projected as wide receiver 22. I don't think he'll be bad. I think he'll be a low-end wide receiver 2 or a very high-end flex guy. Or wide receiver 3 if you play 3 wide receiver. I'm just a huge believer in the Jamar Chase talent. The draft capital is higher. I think he's a more talented football player. He is a much better athlete. And he has a rapport with the quarterback. Plus, as we've seen, rookies are becoming impact players quicker in this generation of players than they have been. And I'm sure Jeff is laughing because he's probably done research on this that's going to debunk my claim.
No, I looked up. I actually have Jamar Chase above T. Higgins, but I laughed at the point difference.
Oh, is it 0.69?
It's 0.1.
Nice.
That's extremely funny. But yeah, I mean, and I don't have them that different. Like I have, oh yeah, I currently have Chase with 4 more points than Higgins. So like, I think they're both going to be good, and I think they're both going to be pretty close because I think Higgins will probably start the season as the number 1, like de facto, because he's been there. But Chase's talent will eventually win out, and I think. Like I would say back half of the season, Jamar Chase has a very good chance to be a top 12 guy for like the last 8 weeks. I mean, dude, he's an amazing football player. And I think he's going to show that.
I think a lot of the question of Higgins or Chase comes down to how well the Bengals offensive line can protect Joe Burrow. Because I know they used some draft capital. I know they went out and got Riley Reif. But it really matters how much they can protect Joe Burrow. Because Higgins is those more downfield routes. And Chase is going to...
Well... Higgins will have a lower ADOT than Chase will.
You think so?
Oh yeah, because Higgins was actually used closer to the line of scrimmage than people realized last year, and I know some of that is due to the fact that Ryan Finley played a couple games and Ryan Finley can throw the ball like 20 yards. But
and that's it. That's if he does the Happy Gilmore like wind up to like run into his throw.
The crow hop to get it down. For any throw past the first down line for Ryan Finley is a crow hop, but.
Higgins is 12 in ADOT last year.
I'm seeing 40.
40 what?
Number 40 in ADOT. Oh, you're saying his ADOT was 12.
Yeah, his ADOT.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. He's I think it'll be around that.
Boyd was 8.4.
Right. Like I think Higgins will go down a little bit even because again, people seem to be forgetting that T. Higgins is a below average athlete. He's just not he's not that athletic. He's not particularly fast. He's not particularly agile. He's not huge. He doesn't have any traits that are standout. He's just across the board solid. Whereas Jamar Chase has all of the makings of a superstar. His metrics say he's a superstar. His athletic testing says he's a superstar. And his counting stats say he's a superstar. I'm going to trust my receiver evaluations because I had CD Lamb wide receiver 1 by a good margin last year, and he ended up looking really great.
Yeah. All right, Herms, sell us on. We've heard the Jamar Chase case. Let's hear the tea. Spill the tea. There we go. Got it. I got there.
There it is.
I got there.
Woo. Big fan. Well, my pro T Higgins case is honestly more or less just anti Jamar Chase year 1 being really good take. So like, I mean, 'cause my whole beef with the thing is the fact that, at least in my opinion, a lot of the Chase enthusiasm is based in rhetoric of the fact that it's like, oh, well, you see what happened 2 years ago? It's like, yeah, well, he hasn't played football in a very long time. The jump to the NFL is difficult. And also, Joe Burrow is going to have to take his sweet time recovering from the fact that, like, you know, his knee got absolutely blown up. So, like, for the first month of the season, the fact that they were really good in college is something that will pay dividends in the future, in my opinion. But I think, like, right away, just, like, and plus, like, things that I've found looking back at like rookie receiver success in recent seasons, the talent of the other receivers, and also, well, I'll say pass catchers in general, just because, you know, tight ends and whatnot as well. They walk into situations where they're like immediately just like, yeah, this dude is like miles ahead of everybody else, and it's just like long term, sure. I just don't think that Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins are bad enough to the point where it's like Jamar Chase completely changes the game, in my opinion. So it's just like, it's so hard. I don't know. And plus, it's like, you know, if we're to believe the fun coach speak things, you know, then even Joe Burrow himself is just like, yeah, man, like I'm vibing pretty hard right now with my man T. So like, I agree with the whole like Jamar Chase will end the year being really good thing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But like, I just think if we're like, if I'm being asked the question, like at the end of the year, who do I think has like the most points? It's like, yeah, I'm going to go with the dude that already has familiarity with the offense and has already been there. But if Jamar Chase's ADP doesn't get super out of hand, I'll still draft him and just like wait patiently for him to explode, because like it's definitely there for him to explode. I just think that, like, I don't know, people are going to be really, really frustrated when it takes, you know, the first several weeks for things to really, you know, get under him and for him to get acclimated to the professional level. Like, once that jump happens, it's to the moon. Like, at that point, we're good. But I don't know. I'm hedging my bet that way. But...
Sure. I have 3 questions for all 3 of you. It's based on these 3 rivers. I don't think we need to talk about Tyler Boyd that much. I just think we need to reference him.
He's a distant third.
Yeah. Jamar Chase, wide receiver 24, end of season finish. Higher or lower?
Jamar Chase. Say that question.
Higher or lower than wide receiver 24?
So does Jamar Chase finish as wide receiver 24 or better? Yes or no?
No.
Yes.
I'm kind of comfortable taking the line on that one, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm thinking I have him as my wide receiver 23. 0.1, like I said, 0.1 points ahead of my wide receiver 24, T. Higgins. So
I will say yes. Next question: wide receiver 24 or better, T. Higgins? Yes or no?
No.
Dog says yes. Mailman's here. I say yes. I say push.
I'll yes as well. And then Tyler Boyd, top 36 receiver, yes or no?
No.
Yes.
No, I have him 37.
Yes, yeah, I have him below. Despite the fact that I think he's a decent value, I still think it's going to be below that.
I'll say yes, I have him 35. But isn't that crazy how those 3 guys are falling like right on those lines?
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, 23, 24. So let's loop back around. Mike, you've been uttering defenses of Tyler Boyd, and I will allow you to mount an entire defense of Tyler Boyd before I say he's not going to score enough touchdowns for you to like him. Go.
Tyler Boyd's a slot guy. And as we talked about with Joe Burrow and the fact that, you know, he's going to be banged up coming in and worried about the injury, and he's going to be targeting Tyler Boyd. So it's to me, we're going to have the Carolina Panthers season all over again. And all 3 finished within the top 30. And this year, all 3 of these Bengals are going to finish in the top 30 once again. I just don't see them finishing in the top 25. So I'm nitpicking there. But I do believe that all 3 is going to be in between 25 and 30. And Tyler Boyd probably more towards 30 because of those touchdown vacancies. But he is going to be targeted quite a bit. He's going to catch a lot of passes. And that's going to put him in the 30.
What if I told you that Tyler Boyd only played 40% of his snaps in the slot last year? It would be a lie, but what if I told you that?
He was 30 for 30.
I would say that.
What if I lied?
What if I lied to you to make a point? How about that?
No, I liked what Mike said referencing the Panthers, because I think this is the mistake that a lot of people, and we can use this to transition into Joe Mixon, but I think this is the mistake a lot of people are making with projecting Mixon, is that they're thinking that, and I guess I can understand it to a degree, because vacated targets do tend to go to running backs, but the problem is they don't really have vacated targets. They're just kind of making room for Jamar Chase.
They have transferred targets, is what
exactly.
It is. Yeah.
Those are going to leave the running back room. Those Gio Bernard targets are going to Jamar Chase. They're not going to Joe Mixon. They're not going to CJ Uzoma and Drew Sample. Like, they're not going to use these guys in the passing game. They've got 3 really good receivers. Those are the guys who are going to get the bulk of the targets. And that's why I like the Bengals receivers and Joe Burrow this year relative to consensus, and I don't like Joe Mixon relative to consensus, because I don't think he's going to get the receiving work necessary to be the RB12 type guy that he's being drafted at currently, because that was his current Fantasy Pros ADP as of yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I have him as 19 right now, and I think his ceiling is probably I think his ceiling is where he's being drafted right now. I think his ceiling is fringe RB1. I just don't see him getting enough receiving work in that type of offense. It's a Zach Taylor offense. He comes from the McVay tree. They don't use running backs in the pass game. The only reason why Gio Bernard was getting targets in the pass game is because it was a bunch of backup quarterbacks who were dumping off the whole time. I don't, in an ideal situation, which it's going to be closer to an ideal situation for Cincinnati this year than it was last year, Zach Taylor's not going to want to use Joe Mixon in the pass game that much, just like McVay's not going to want to use Cam Akers in the pass game that much.
Yes.
Because
Thank you.
Because you have those receivers, and that's what they build off of. They love 11 personnel. They love to run 3 receivers out there and throw it to them, and that's what they're going to do. That's why I like the quarterback. I like the receivers. I hate the tight ends, and I'm not a big fan of Joe Mixon because he's not talented enough to overcome capped volume and become an RB1 just based on he's not Austin Eckler level talent. It's just not going to happen. And that's why I have him in the mid RB2 tier.
Yeah, and Walker, we need to stop talking about football so much because guess where I have Joe Mixon? Running back 19.
There we go.
So, Herms, why don't you? Oh, Mike, go for it.
Interject here.
Okay.
Joe Mixon did catch 21 passes last year in just 6 games. So, I don't necessarily disagree with Walker, but I do think that there are going to be more passes than what you think going to go to Joe Mixon.
I have him catching 45.
I think that's reasonable. Yeah, that's probably where I'd have him, if not a little bit higher. But yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, I could see 50. Like 3 a game seems like a fair. Like if somebody wanted to say 50, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But real quick, Herms, we'll get your take on Joe Mixon. The Bengals. Somebody, I would like a guess as to how often the Bengals ran 11 personnel. Just a shot in the dark.
Last season?
Yeah.
77%.
This idiot, he's way off at 76.
Oh, dude, wow. Way to go.
Let's go.
You blew it. They passed out a three wide 81% of the time. And I'm with Walker on this one. I just don't, if you look at the targets that are going away, like 59 to Gio, 53 to Drew Sample, and it's like
had those Mike Thomas targets last year too.
Well, Mike Thomas had 21 targets.
Really? He seemed like he had a lot more.
It felt like he got a lot. And
yeah.
Auden Tate, everybody's favorite guy, 22. But it's like they're gonna give at least 100 targets to Jamar Chase. Those are the AJ Green targets. They're going to give at least 115 to T Higgins. They're going to give at least 120 to or at least they're going to split 250, I'd say, between T Higgins and Tyler Boyd. And those soak up most of the Gio Bernard targets. There's just none left for Joe Mixon. I mean, and Joe Burrow was throwing the ball 41 times per game last year.
Yeah, that's probably going to be a little less.
Yeah, the record is, I think, 45 times per game. I looked it up. So I think he'll throw the ball slightly less. So there's going to be a contraction in the passing game as well. So maybe that helps Mixon. Maybe it helps Chris Evans, who Mike demanded I put on the show sheet.
Yes,
but Herms, let's talk about Joe Mixon. Your take on Joe Mixon, because that's the polarizing guy on this team really is Joe Mixon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know, because I've been burned so many times in the past, but it's one of those things. Like every single year, I'll go through the stages of Joe Mixon grief. It's super depressing how wrong I was. Then I'm just like swearing that I'll never do it again, and then we come back around. There's rumbling enthusiasm from other people, and then I reach my final conclusion of I'm ready to be hurt again. So it's but I'm becoming more and more realistic as time goes along, especially with everything that was outlined about the connection between Zach Taylor coming from the McVay system and whatnot. Like I'm interested in Joe Mixon being on my team, but have kind of settled him into the range he probably should have been treated all along, and that the ceiling is he can be an RB1, sure, yeah, and I'm cool with it, but I think he for a long time has been like closer to a Chris Carson than the type of, like once upon a time believing he could be, like an aforementioned person, like an Austin Eckler, like I've come around to just understanding reality is a thing and we're living in it. So,
some of us are. Some of us have created our own reality.
No, yeah, it's just a lot of people wanted Joe Mixon to be like last year. They wanted Joe Mixon to be Aaron Jones, and he's not. He's Chris Carson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That's just who he is. He's fine. He's a solid enough player, but he's just not that star.
Yeah, if you tell a Joe Mixon fan, you're like, yeah, he's probably like RB15, they will bite your head off. It's like that's a good player to have on your team.
He's good at football. Like he's not like he's bad. He's just not as good as you think he is.
Yeah. So Mike, any dissenting opinion here about Joe Mixon?
No, I think you guys. I mean, we all know who he is. It's just trying to convince that's the fantasy Twitter land, and no fantasy Twitter land doesn't agree with us, and so they can have Joe Mixon at an RB8 and grab him there, and I'll just be happy with it and say, okay, say la vie. Yeah. I'll just go get somebody else here can be much better.
I gotta learn.
I'll take Chris Carson at RB15 and
prosper. Yeah, exactly. Dude, Chris Carson is falling so far. It's insane.
It's ridiculous.
I have Chris Carson. I have Chris Carson RB12 for this season.
Me too. God, we gotta stop talking. We gotta stop talking.
Oh, I do too.
Yes.
Carson.
Yes.
Yeah. Everybody flex for Chris Carson. It's the Carson cast. All right.
Oh,
yeah. So yeah. Don't draft Joe Mixon. Go get Chris Carson. And Joe Mixon can be top 15, and that's still good. That's still fine.
Yeah.
That's
just
still
don't
fine.
draft him. Don't draft him in the first round.
Yes. Please don't do that.
Don't do that. You're fine.
Yeah. Take him. I will. Okay. I do not like Joe Mixon. I will smash draft Joe Mixon every single time if he's there in the third round. Not even thinking about it.
Oh yeah, 3-1. I'm picking him.
3-1. Yeah, that's the like subtlety that people miss. It's like, well, I don't think he's a top 20 pick. People are like, oh, so you hate Joe Mixon? I'm like,
not really.
That's not what I said. Sure.
I'm just realistic about Joe Mixon.
Yeah. So all right.
So what do you do at 3-1 if both Michael Thomas and Joe Mixon's on the board?
Michael
Thomas smash every single
time.
Not
even close.
Yes.
Last year I called Juju the easiest third round pick I've ever made. Michael Thomas is twice as easy as Juju in the third.
Dang. Okay.
It's like it. Also, the thing is, Juju had a bad season last year, but if you took him in the third round, you probably didn't have that awful of a time.
No.
Because he was just kind of like fine.
Well,
like he was disappointing, but he didn't kill you.
Yeah.
What was disappointing was his yards. I mean, he was like 10th in receptions and like 35th in yards. So it's what do you do with that?
I would almost guarantee I'm the lowest of us on Michael Thomas, and I have him wide receiver 12. If he falls to the third round, you got to take him.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Joe Burrow, QB 11 by ADP right now. Who wants to make a passionate case for Joe Burrow? Does anybody have one? Herms, Mike, Walker, anybody got a passionate case for Joe Burrow?
No, I have him exactly where he's going.
It's just really difficult. Number one, coming off an injury, and number two, he just doesn't run the ball very much. He can if it's there, but you're not counting on him to be like Kyler Murray out there. Mm-hmm. I don't even know if you can count on him to be a Ryan Tannehill for that matter.
I was going to ask if he thought he was a Tanny runner.
He's more of a Justin Herbert runner.
Maybe not even that. But
like I have him running for 250 yards.
Yeah, he's got 14 per game last year. But he started off with it looks like 60 in his first 2 weeks, and then they were like, don't do that anymore.
Yeah, basically. It's like, we can't even protect you when you're standing there. Please don't run out to the parade.
Yeah.
So it's definitely without that running game, then you're looking QB 12 top, best, QB 15. I like him anywhere between those two areas.
All right, Herms, what are you looking at with Joe Burrow this year? Is he a back end quarterback one with a chance of getting higher, or is he back in quarterback one as like his upside? What do you think about Burrow this year?
I have him at 15 just with the understanding that, like, I'm not a medical expert, but having heard medical experts say things, just like, because we always see reports from players who are coming off like significant ligament damage or whatever early in the summer being like, he's feeling like he's at 100%. It's like, okay, cool. But at the same time, like, I've heard a lot of people talk about the whole having confidence in your leg thing, and for a guy it's pretty important for him to, like, I don't know, plant his leg in order to make throws, like, it might be weird for 5 weeks, and then he'll be like, okay, I can do this, and it'll be great. But, Burrow's one of those, like, big fan for real life, not as much for fantasy, but that's also not like a bad thing. I think that by the time he finds confidence in, planting and whatnot and doing the thing, you can rely on him as a back-end QB1, and it'll be great. But, until that point, I'm just like, I'm tentative because, I trust doctors and stuff.
Yeah.
Here's my so basically, we've finished the Bengals. Here's my cumulative take. Trade for Bengals players in week 6.
Yes, there you go.
Because their offense is going to get better as the season goes on.
Yeah, that's what we've been saying about everybody. Yeah. Let me check the schedule really quick. Let me see how they start out. That's the preseason. I was like, oh boy, they start against the Bucs and Washington Football, but that's preseason.
That'd be brutal.
Yeah, Vikings, Bears, Steelers, Jags, Packers to start the season.
Well, week 4 and 5 is not hard, but those first 3 weeks are not easy.
Yeah.
Well, the Vikings secondary is pretty bad, but their pass rush is good.
Yeah, then they get an absolute cupcake the next week. The Detroit Lions.
Yeah. For it to be advantageous for,
I knew that was coming. Yeah.
What were you saying?
Jeff Okuda is going to pick Joe Burrow 3 times.
If Jeff Okuda can play.
Jeff Okuda is very good at football, I swear.
But
I promise.
Was he ever on a football field? Every time when I would look at the injury reports, he'd be like, oh, inactive Jeff Okuda.
No, he played like
9 games.
I think he played like 11 or 12 games last year.
9 games.
9? Oh.
9. This many. All right.
He got better as the season went on. Now Aaron Glenn's going to fix him.
Lions cast. Do you see Dan Campbell said he wasn't going to wipe Jared Goff's ass?
Yeah. That Jared Goff's going to have to wipe his own ass. Yeah. I love Dan Campbell.
That was
Dan
awesome.
I'm Campbell pilled. He's good now.
Campbell rules. Campbell's like Jim Tomsula if he was actually a good football head football coach.
Yeah. Dan Campbell says all of the funny stuff that you want like a joke coach to say, but he's self-aware enough to know that he doesn't know that much about some stuff, and so he just hired smart people to do that for him. And I was like, that's perfect.
Yeah. So, all right, boys, anything else we want to add about the Bengals?
They play in Cincinnati.
They play in Cincinnati. They love Skyline Chili.
They're the team I like the least, actually. Contrary to popular belief, I have a respect for the Ravens because the one thing we can all agree on is that we hate the Bengals.
I will say Cincinnati is definitely not my favorite place. It's kind of a sad place.
Oh, that's rough.
People say Cleveland is like the sad city in Ohio, but I disagree. I think Cleveland's fine.
I have family in Cleveland. It's cool. Fine. Yeah, it's a fine place
Cleveland's
to be.
Perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Ask Sam Weiss what he feels about Cincinnati and Cleveland.
How does he feel about Cincy and Cleveland? I don't know this.
Oh, you don't? Oh, so this, gosh, late 80s, 88, 89. There was
Mike loves to talk about things when I was a baby.
I wasn't even thought of, dude.
So they were playing in Cincinnati against Cleveland, and Cincinnati was a big snowstorm, and they were losing to Cleveland, and the fans just started piling on, throwing stuff on the field, just being totally disruptive and just really out of hand. Sam Weiss gets on the microphone and says, "We live in Cincinnati. We do not live in Cleveland. Get your shit together." It's great.
He said the word.
I said shut.
Get your shut together. Okay. All right. You hear that, Apple? He said shut.
It's a great video. Yeah, it's one of the great.
At Apple, don't put in the podcast feed that I said the
word. All right. So speaking of the mistake by the lake, let's move on to the Cleveland Browns. I can say that I'm a man of Cleveland. My dad is from there, so I can call it the mistake by the lake. 11-5 in 2020, 2021, 10 win over under. Actually, real quick, the thing that I say, people, they ask, about your dad. I said the best thing that he ever did was when he moved to California, he renounced all of his Cleveland fandom. He was like, he moved to the Bay Area. He's like, I'm a Niners fan
smart.
now. Actually, he moved to the Bay Area, then Sac. He's like Kings fan, Giants fan, Niners fan, except for the Kings.
He should have stuck with the Cavs because he would have got LeBron.
Yeah, I was gonna say except for the Kings. Good call for me. Key additions: Anthony Schwartz, Demetric Felton. Anthony Schwartz is a wide receiver. Demetric Felton is a wide receiver.
Key additions.
Yeah, key additions.
Scare quotes.
Yeah. Somebody put in the doc spend free agency. Oh, I did. They spent their free agency dollars on defense. I can't think of somebody they lost that mattered.
They didn't lose anybody that mattered.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, so where do we want to start here? I mean, this is kind of I kind of see this as sort of a bland place to go. It's like Chubb, Hunt, maybe Baker, maybe Odell, maybe Landry.
I'm not interested in Baker. I will say that. I just the volume's not there for me. He's not a runner and he doesn't throw much, so there's really no upside for me. I mean, I have him projected at QB 22 right now. Like he's going to be down in that like the bottom of that tier with guys like Derek Carr, Daniel Jones, Trevor Lawrence. Like these are guys I don't want. It's for one reason or another. Mayfield's just boring. Like he's fine to stream in a good matchup because he'll throw some touchdowns, but you do not want to rely on this guy because he just doesn't throw enough. He's a solid football player, but they use him as the best game manager in the league because that's what works for them. And that's not a really good recipe for fantasy success at the quarterback position.
I mean, it worked for once Alex Smith unscrewed himself. That worked for Alex Smith.
Yeah, but he ran.
I was going to say hand off a little bit. Alex Smith, I mean, he ran, but he just had a lot of high profile runs. He didn't run as much as people think.
But he also played in Kansas City.
Well, I'm thinking more. My picture of him is Harbaugh Alex Smith.
Well, he wasn't like a stud.
No, he was. They made him the best. They rode Kaepernick to the Super Bowl, but they rode Alex Smith to the NFC Championship game, just telling him don't screw up.
Yeah. Yep.
So, all right, Herms, running backs. Let's talk about the running backs. How do you feel about Nick Chubb? Everybody kind of loves Nick Chubb, but then they're like, well, but there's always a well but with Nick Chubb.
Yeah, I mean, we know what he is, and like it's something that I had referenced at the beginning of the program. This weird thing where people have this disdain for running backs who do not catch the ball, and it's like, but if they run enough times, do I care?
Yeah, exactly.
and that's kind of the thing with Nick Chubb, where it's just like, okay, fine, but it's him and Derrick Henry being like the two, big poster boys here for this. Like, it's fine. They'll run enough for it to make up for the fact that they're not doing the catching thing. Like, Nick Chubb is a top 10 running back no matter what, and I will gladly take him in the second round of drafts.
Perfect. Sounds good. How do you feel about this Kareem Hunt fella?
He's pretty good. I view him as more of a flex play because I think that's the responsible thing to do. Because there are some people that I guess still have this weird understanding of him. Like, we can't think of him as Kareem Hunt with Andy Reid because he's no longer with Andy Reid.
Yeah.
So it's not how things work, unfortunately. So, I mean, and we saw at times last year where, like, both would just absolutely ball out and go hard in the paint. Shout out Waka Flocka. But, like, it's just, a lot of those were really, really good matchups. So, on a week-to-week basis, like, sure, if anything happened to Nick Chubb, then, like, Kareem Hunt is an excellent... Well, I'm trying not to use the word handcuff. There are better words. But, I don't know.
Alternative.
Yes, alternative. Or running back pal.
Yeah. Running back pal.
I like that.
He's a good pal to have.
If only there was something you could attach to his wrist to attach to Nick Chubb's wrist and take him with him. Some sort of
like those lobster claw mittens.
Some sort of cuffs.
Those child mittens that are so it's excellent running back mitten. I'm a big fan. I mean, Kareem Hunt is the most valuable mitten. Or among the most valuable mitten. I haven't determined who I think is the most valuable mitten yet.
Well, that's perfect. Most valuable pal. MVP.
MVP. Actually, I'm actually, hold on, time out. I'm loving this mitten thing because it's like a handcuff it's like you got to have them together. But a mitten, it's like you could have one mitten and it's still useful. You don't have to have them together, So I'm liking this fantasy mitten thing.
Shout out Mittens. What is up?
Yeah. Shout out to Mittens.
I even live in one.
This man loves living in his state's shaped like a mitten. Come on, man. Get a normal shaped state that's shaped like a blob.
Absolutely not. Never gonna happen.
This guy, he
I'll get a
dude,
I'll live in.
You upset my dog.
Herms from over by Maryland, which is the dumbest shaped state possible. It's just
hey now. Maryland is the greatest state in the world. Have you seen our flag? It's so cool.
The flag is very cool, but the state's shaped like like when you trim a steak, and it's like all the little pieces.
No. The what I think the state to me, it's shaped like the teeth in the Nashville Predators logo.
All right.
I can see that.
I can see that. I'll give you that. All right. What are we talking about?
Invert the logo. It's
the Browns.
Yeah.
The Browns.
I don't know what we're talking about, dude.
The running backs are good because Kevin Stefanski's in charge. So
yes,
there we go.
Much.
I like that's pretty much what it is. I said it last year. I'll just repeat it again here. If you take if there's a chance, Nick, because they were running back 9, running back 10 last year. I think that was total points. Yeah, that's total points because Chubb missed
but there was the 4 weeks where Chubb didn't play.
Yeah, that's what I just said. I said Chubb missed.
And you know who was really bad in those 4 weeks?
What's that?
Chubb didn't play. You know who was really bad in those 4 weeks?
Dearness Johnson.
Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, not Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt was not
wasn't great.
Was he bad, or are we doing the thing where he didn't blow up like he thought he would, so we think that he was bad?
No, he was worse than Nick Chubb is in that role.
Well, I got the numbers in front of me. 72 yards rushing on 20 carries, no touchdowns. 40 yards rushing on 13 carries, no touchdowns.
That's bad.
76 yards rushing on 18 carries, no touchdowns.
That's okay.
What weeks? Wait, hold on. What weeks were these?
All the weeks that.
Yes, but what were the numbers?
Like 6, 7, something.
Weeks 5 through I think 9.
5, 6. So we got. Okay. So 5 through 9, he had 16.8, 6.7, 17.7, 8.3 fantasy points half PPR, which is
not great.
Not great. So,
two solid weeks, 2 bad weeks.
Yeah, so he is the poster boy for if you play 16 games, you will end up higher than people should expect at running back is what Kareem Hunt ended up at. But solid flex, I would say. I made the statement of if you take Chubb where he's going, you'll do fine. But if you take Hunt where he's going, you'll win. The season-ending finish, if you don't look very closely, plays that out. But Hunt played 16 games and Chubb played 12. So,
where do you have Hunt right now?
23.
Okay, I have him at 25.
This guy. Oh no, I have 22. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I agree with Herms. I have Chubb at 10.
I have Chubb lower than that, but I don't want to
12?
talk. Yeah. 14.
That's too low. I'm sorry.
Oh no! Come on, man! Come on!
Jeff is the
What
guy.
are we doing? What are you talking about?
Seinfeld's here.
Hey!
He's the guy. Jeff is the guy you're talking about. He hates all non-pass catching running backs except Derrick Henry.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
Chris Carson's 12.
No. Chris Carson catches passes. You do like Gus Edwards.
I do like Gus Edwards. But I don't know. This is
14. How do you get there?
Because I have DeAndre Swift ahead of him. Walker, you can't get mad about that.
No, I also have DeAndre Swift ahead of him.
I have Chris Carson ahead of him. Najee, Jonathan. Oh, you know what it is? I bet it's Eckler. Eckler bumped everybody down because I have him at 7.
Oh, I have Eckler at 8.
So where's the okay? So I got CMC, Dalvin, Saquon.
I have CMC, Kamara, Barkley, Cook, Henry.
Yeah, Kamara. Okay, so hold on.
And then,
do you have Jonathan Taylor in your top 10?
No, I have him 11.
Okay, so I have Jonathan Taylor top 10. Do you have Najee?
Yeah, number 7.
Okay, I don't know where this came in then because we have all the. You have too many guys in your top 10.
Where's Zeke for you?
7.
Yeah,
I have Zeke at 6.
I have Zeke at 13.
Ooh. Wow, this guy hates Ewoks.
13. Right. Wow.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, I don't know about that one either.
I do have him in the. Let's see, what tier do I have him in? Technically 4th tier because I have McCaffrey in his own tier, but yeah, he's in the same tier as Swift, Chubb, Taylor, Carson. So 9 through 13 are the same tier. So if you had him 9, I'd be fine with that. But I think 7 or 6 is too high because I just don't see him getting the snap share. You know, the last 5-6 weeks of the season, it was Pollard almost as much as it was Zeke. And I'm not one of these people that's like Tony Pollard's going to be a top 20 guy because he's just going to take the job. Like, that's not going to happen. But
save it for the NFC. Why did I forget division? East.
Oh, yeah. They should be in the South.
They should be in the South. Okay, wide receivers. Are we drafting either Jarvis Landry or Odell Beckham?
I'll draft Landry at his price, probably.
Herms?
I have completely given up on forming opinions about Odell Beckham Jr. I won't do it. I'm sick of it. It's so frustrating because it's just like no matter because objectivity goes out the window as soon as you say his name. So it's just like I can't do it.
Yeah,
I give up. It's over. I've renounced thinking about Odell Beckham. I won't do it.
That's what I've done with Miles Sanders. I think I posted a tweet that was like slyly putting Miles Sanders between 2 guys I like, so I don't have to think about him.
Hey, shout out.
Yeah, that's how you do it.
Yeah, you're just like, you know what? I'm just gonna slide. You're just gonna go right here because I can go. Well, you know what? If one of these, I like player X better and I like player Y better, and he's in the middle. I mean, I don't know what happened here. So Jarvis Landry.
Yeah, I have him 34. I redid my projections, have him wide receiver 34. He's going later than that by a little bit. He'll be better than he was last year because he was coming off of, Kev Masurgeon helped me out with this one too. He was coming off of his surgery last year. He'll be better than he was last year, but he's not the guy he used to be. He's getting older, and as I've said before, he's losing a bit of sharpness in his play. So he's a flex. He's not a guy I would want as I don't want to feel like I have to start him every week.
Okay. Yes or no? Best case scenario, do you have either Brown on your team?
In an ideal world, no.
Herms, do you have either of these Browns wide receivers on your team? Best case scenario.
I'm not doing it. No.
Yeah.
I won't. I can't.
Yeah, exactly. Mike?
I would. It depends. Like OBJ is not going to be on my team just because I think he's like wide receiver 35.
Yeah.
Yep.
And obviously he's not going to go there. And I do have a little bit of hope with Jarvis Landry because I could see him being, at the wide receiver 45 spot, and I'd be like, okay, I can go with wide receiver 45 here and pull the trigger. So I would say definitely no to OBJ, but there's a good possibility Jarvis Landry could be on my team.
Yeah, if I'm I'm shopping in the Jarvis Landry bin, I'm going with Mike Williams or wife material, Marvin Jones. I'm either going, if I want a steady guy, I'll go Marvin Jones. If I want upside, I'll go Mike Williams. I don't see a reason to have Jarvis Landry.
I don't know. I'm just not that high on Mike Williams.
That's fine.
Neither.
Well,
I keep hearing people have Mike Williams in their top 36 receivers, and I just do not understand that.
I'd rather wait 10 rounds to get Jalen Guyton.
I agree.
Pretty much put up the same numbers.
I think there's certainly a case to be made that Jalen Guyton's just as good of a football player as Mike Williams.
Yep.
I love Jalen Guyton.
I like Jalen Guyton, but you guys are nuts.
Mike Williams, wide receiver, 55.
I was gonna say pretend I'm the fantasy footballer and I smashed.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into.
Replace.
My wife just poked her head in. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Replace Mike Williams with Darnell Mooney in your statement, and then I agree.
Moondog to the Mooney. Say it, Herb.
To the Mooney.
To the Mooney. No, this is a very pro Darnell Mooney podcast. This is a safe space here.
Oh, thank God.
Dude's good at football.
He's good. Yes, this is
wide receiver 37 in my projections.
Yeah,
he's going in like the late 40s. It's insane.
Yeah, this is a pro Darnell Mooney podcast. This is a safe space for you, Herms.
I did a mock yesterday. I ended up with both Allen Robinson and Darnell Mooney on my team, and I didn't even hate it.
This guy loves the Chicago Bears.
I hate the Chicago Bears.
This guy loves anything. Call him Waleed Ismail because this guy loves the Chicago Bears. All right. Can you guys make a case for Anthony Schwartz or Rashard Higgins?
No. Well, Rashard Higgins is fine at football, but he's not going to get enough work to be fantasy relevant.
Herms?
I would throw Donovan Peoples-Jones in front of either Schwartz or Higgins.
DPJ wasn't on this.
I like Higgins better than Peoples-Jones for fantasy because I think Higgins has a more stable role, but I think Peoples-Jones is the better football player. If I'm in Dynasty, I'm stashing Peoples-Jones for next season just in case he pops off as their wide receiver too, but in redraft, I'm not interested.
Yeah. No.
I'm not in redraft. All three of those guys, I'm not interested. DPJ, Anthony Schwartz, or Higgins. None of those guys. They do offer some value. We'll see what happens down. But Dynasty, Schwartz, because someone's got to be the deep threat. And Schwartz is the deep threat because I don't see OBJ being there. So with Dynasty-wise, Anthony Schwartz does have some value.
All right. Herms, either any of these guys, somebody you can make a case for that you feel strongly about.
I mean, I gotta say, for redraft, if you're in a 32-team league, 100%, definitely go for it because you kind of have to. Otherwise, I'm a big fan of Donovan, the Peoples-Jones, but yeah. It has to be a deep enough league. You know what I mean? Like, if we're just going like standard-ish size league, whatever that means to you, it's generally about the same type of thing. It's like 10 teams, 12 teams, you start 2 wide receivers, you start 3 wide receivers, however many flex spots, whatever. You have to go a pretty long way in terms of expanding the size of the league and the size of the roster before I start to consider some of these guys seriously.
Yeah.
So, it's nothing against them. It's just that it's the reality we live in with the offense being what it is. Like, Dynasty, right. Sure. I will take a flyer on some of those dudes. Yeah, that's why we have taxi squads. But for redraft, it's like, nah, dude.
Yeah.
So like Herms, my home league is 14 teams, 14 rounds, start 3 receivers. I'm just not interested in any of these guys for that.
Yeah, and you don't need to be either.
Right.
Yeah,
if OBJ gets hurt, I can. And then everybody's going to go nutso for Rashard Higgins on waivers, and I'll just pick up Donovan Peoples-Jones for 0 fab.
Yes.
Yeah. And this is right here is the difference between dynasty evaluation and redraft evaluation. Dynasty, you're like, I'm going to bet on the talent, and maybe the offense will change around him. And in redraft, we're like, This is what we're living with. We can like the player, but, it'll be impossible for Baker Mayfield to throw the ball 27 times per game.
26 and up 5.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Since the tight ends are basically irrelevant here because we have no idea on really what the targets are going to look like.
Yeah.
All I want to know is which Browns tight end ends up with the most fantasy points at the end of the season.
Bryant.
I agree. Hunter Bryant.
Harrison.
I couldn't remember which H. Bryant was, so I just said Bryant.
Hunter's on the line, actually.
Yeah, I got those guys confused last year, and I'll continue to get those guys confused.
That's fair. Yeah.
All right, Herms. Who leads the way? Who's the star tight end for the Browns this year?
Oh, we're too early on in the process for me to have any sort of concept as to who that's going to be perfectly honest. Because I'm one of those people where I will always just, if I don't have a definitive answer for something, I will not give a definitive
You
answer
don't have
or
to.
something.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's just that, like I felt that was important to sprinkle in because like if you're listening out there and you're thinking about doing some analysis, doing all this type of stuff, you don't have to have an answer for everything. Like just always remember that.
Yeah.
I'll adjust my question then. Which of Bryant, Hooper, and Njoku are you most confident will not lead the team in fantasy points?
Njoku, as if I could get the word out, because for whatever reason they hate Njoku.
Yeah, I think he might be the most talented of those three guys, but I'm gonna go with Bryant as well. Second year tight end. He showed flashes a little bit last year. He's okay, but I wouldn't draft any of them. I'm not interested in drafting any of those guys.
I'm just not sure if Njoku makes the team.
Yeah.
Can't they save a decent coin or two by moving on?
Let me check his spot track.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Herms
has to wait longer to talk about the Steelers.
Yeah, I really hope my wife shows up on the podcast because she is talking to a pet, very sing-songy right now, and I hope she shows up on the record. Let's see. They save exactly $0 if they cut David Njoku.
Well, I don't know where I got that in my head, but either way, it's just they.
Oh, you know what it is? It's his 5th-year option, and it's guaranteed for injury only. So I don't know why this is showing up. No, you're right. They should be able to cut him without a problem.
Well, there you go. Okay, all right, there it is, folks. There it is. But yeah, I mean, they have a weird vendetta against him, and it's just like, just let him go. Please.
Let the man breathe. Let the man live. All right, that's enough about the Browns. Let's talk about the reason Herms is here. Actually, you know what, guys, we're running late. We're out of time. We'll skip talking about this next time.
Yeah, the Steelers have killed my team long enough. I'm done with the Steelers. Goodbye.
The Pittsburgh Steelers last year. 12-4 with the most disappointing 12-4 I have ever seen. 2021 9-win over-under, which I really feel like you should take the over on that. Key additions: Najee Harris replaced James Conner, Pat Freiermuth replaced Vance McDonald, and I put a question mark here. Did they replace the entire offensive line, or is it like 4/5, or what's going on with the Steelers offensive line here?
There is one remaining offensive line. That was a starter from last year. So, but here's the thing though, and this is something I feel adamant about, voicing on any time I'm asked about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, the offensive line was old and bad.
Mm-hmm.
People acting like, oh, Villanueva being gone. Oh, DeCastro, why are they moving on? Oh, so what's happening? And it's like, but they ceased being able to run block. They just completely lost the ability to do that. And at a certain point, like, you cannot, it's like, look, the continuity for years was incredible. I had a great time watching it, but, like, time marches on, and people get older. They stopped being effective, so they replaced the people with other people. It's fine.
Yeah, here's the thing. Kevin Dotson was the best offensive lineman on the Steelers last year, and he's going to continue to be that. Like, he's good. Marquise Pouncey was bad last year, and I can't imagine Kendrick Green comes in and is worse than him. He might not be good, but he's not going to be so bad that you want old Pouncey back. Zach Banner coming back will help. He's pretty decent.
I like him a lot.
BJ Finney is a perfectly fine guard, especially when you have Dotson on the other side. The only thing I'm concerned about is Okorafor at left tackle scares me. Chooks is not very good, but he's a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker. So I'm not worried for Najee. I'm a little worried for the pass catchers.
Okay, perfect. That's what I wanted, the discussion I want to hear with the offensive line. And Herms, you nailed it. People don't know how to evaluate offensive line, so they're like, well, the old guys were bad, and then they replaced them, so the new guys must be worse because they were on.
Yeah.
It's a strange transitive property of awfulness, but
it's like
I don't get how that works.
It's the only position
when they went away.
It's the only position where you can be like, these guys are terrible, and just sweep them all out, and everybody's like, well, yeah, these guys are obviously worse than who was there before. It's like,
Huh?
That only happens with the offensive line, and I don't know why.
So, and the thing too is, even if these guys that they replace are better offensive linemen overall, the biggest problem I see with the offensive line is the cohesive unit, and without having some really long time together, that offensive line, they cohesiveness is so important to an offensive line that'd be the one thing that I'm really worried about is that function, and maybe they can work it out and during the OTAs and preseason, but I do have a concern there.
Yeah, I'm curious if that's one of those conventional wisdom things. I would like to know how that actually plays out, because
I think
it's not a conventional wisdom thing.
I actually agree with Mike on this one.
I'm not disagreeing. I just want to see.
Sure.
I want to see it. I want to see the numbers. Give me the studies. Let me see.
Tell Frisco Josh to do a study on it.
He'll probably block me for some reason.
Yeah, I think it's fair. It's definitely fair to be concerned about Pittsburgh's offensive line. I don't think it's fair to be fear-mongering about it. But actually, I do. I want more people to do it, because then you keep Najee's draft price low, and then I can get him everywhere and win leagues.
There you go.
There it is.
There it is. All right. So I was looking to see something on Twitter, I forget, and somebody said that I had hot takes, but they're all correct about the Steelers, which is an interesting statement to make. I was like, but if they're hot takes, they should be wrong. I've said, I don't know. All right. I lost where I am. I'm filibustering so I can get back to my document. There we go. So Walker, you mentioned it. Najee Harris replaces James Conner. Herms, yep. It's your boy. I'll give you the floor. Let's talk Najee.
Yeah, gotta let him.
Well, since you have asked about my RB5 overall,
Ooh, 5!
Let's go.
Who is in his way? Who? Tell me who. Who is? Because I mean, like,
Benny Snell.
Benny Snell's like, look out for Kalen Balazs. Like, no.
Tony McFarland.
Oh my god! And this is another. Oh god! Because we over on the lateral at the lateral FF on Twitter. We refer to these types of players as fetch players. It's just like, you can try and make it happen all you want, but it's just like, it's never going to happen. I think Anthony McFarland is a talented football player, but it just there's a group of people that have this very strange notion that it's just like, if they just trusted him, he'd go to the moon. Like, no, that's not. At no point would that happen, especially not in Pittsburgh.
No.
Anthony McFarland and Ty Johnson are the same football player.
I was watching Anthony McFarland, and I was like, okay, close my eye, like squint my eyes, best case scenario. I can see, I don't know if it was the dreads. I was like, best case scenario, there's some Devonta Freeman in there. And then I watched him with the Steelers last year, and I was like, absolutely not. Nope, not going to happen. He's too slow. It's not going to work. He can't do it.
It cannot happen. And I know another thing that was brought up was like, well, Matt Canada's the offensive coordinator now, and they were working together when he was coaching College Park, or most people call it University of Maryland, right?
Yeah.
When they were at University of Maryland, and because little known fact, because there's College Park, and then there's UMBC, University of Maryland, Baltimore County, Eastern Shore also. Shout out the Maryland Collegiate Education System. Anyways, that's a fun fact for the show.
Let's talk about Mike. Let's talk about UC Merced, huh?
UC.
Shout out Towson.
So yeah, Tony McFarland, not going to happen. Nobody's coming for these snaps. Nobody's coming for these touches. So I had to update the stat because it used to be number 1. Since he's entered the league, Mike Tomlin has given one running back 20 plus touches in the 5th most games since he's joined the league. He wants one guy.
And here's my I
looked over at Herms, and he was like in the camera.
Yeah. Yes. No, I believe I think Najee Harris will have his backfield touch percentage will be the 2nd highest of any running back in the league behind Derrick Henry.
I mean, yes, in terms of because they'll share snaps, but it's like everybody shares snaps. Shout out to the great research that Herms talked about on the lateral FF, because it was mine.
Oh yes, wonderful. Yes.
Everybody shares snaps, but that doesn't mean that you're sharing touches or productive touches. It's like when they want to do something, it will not be Kalen Balash. It will not be Benny Snell.
It's going to be Najee. That's why they drafted him. They're going to use him like that. He doesn't. This is the thing people forget. Do you remember how good for fantasy Trent Richardson's rookie season was? He sucked.
He was bad.
He was
actively
terrible.
bad.
Even his rookie season, he was awful.
Now you're bringing back nightmares. Oh my
God. Traded a first-round pick.
Colts.
He finished as an RB1, and he was awful.
Yeah.
Najee Harris is going to be, at worst, okay.
Yeah.
And he's going to get that kind of touch load. Unless he gets hurt, if he's healthy, there's no way he's not an RB1. No way.
Nothing stopping him.
Absolutely no way.
Besides injury.
That's absolutely the only no way. Yeah, he's going way too low. I will take Najee Harris everywhere. My home league is a keeper league, and you get one keeper, and it takes away that round's pick. So I'm the 4th pick. The person with the number 1 pick has the number 1 pick, is almost assuredly going to take Saquon Barkley. The 2 and the 3 are keeping their guys, McCaffrey and Kamara, and losing their first-round pick. I might take Najee Harris.
Do it.
I might take Najee Harris as my first pick. I might do it.
So great. It's going to be so great for you. And this is a journey that just you all need to take it with me. I mean, the Najee Harris train is leaving the station at rapid speeds. You got to be on. You got to be on.
No, you have to. Especially,
you literally have to be on.
Yeah, his ADP, don't listen to this ADP on Fantasy Pros. It says it's RB21, 38 overall. Cut that in half.
I wonder if they're just...
I don't care. RB10 going 19th overall, I'll still take him.
Like I said, cut that in half, and that's the appropriate.
And it's still value. That's Mike's guy.
Yeah.
Are they lowering the rookies? Is that a thing?
I think it's counting ADP from before they were drafted.
Yes, I looked into it. So Fantasy Pros, because I'm always curious about if things don't make sense, why they don't make sense. Fantasy Pros right now is Yahoo Fantrax and FFC. FFC's data goes back before the draft. So FFC's data includes stuff from before everybody was drafted. So that's where the headache lies.
But it's also weird because we figured he was going to be on the Steelers.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. That was probably the most obvious thing. Other than Trevor Lawrence going number 1, Najee Harris was going to go to the Steelers.
Yeah,
there was 2 possibilities: either the Falcons reach or trade back and end up with Najee, and he's the guy, or he goes to the Steelers and he's the guy. Yeah. There were 2 scenarios, and both of them were he's in a perfect situation for fantasy.
Right.
Yeah. So on draft night, as soon as the draft is over, I publish fantasy thoughts on the first round every fantasy relevant player that was drafted. The only way I can do that and stay sane is if I pre-write some of the players. I pre-wrote Trevor Lawrence to the Jags and Najee Harris to the Steelers.
Yes,
it was so simple to just go A to B. And some people are like, well, what if C happens? It's like, no, it's going to be A to B. It's not going to,
some things don't need to be overanalyzed.
Exactly.
The big brain does not need to be, let out of the big brain cage on this one.
Not Najee Harris, use your lizard brain. Just be like, good pick.
Yes.
That's it.
And then all that was undone by Travis Etienne to the Jaguars. I was like, come on, guys, what are you doing?
That was pretty much
What?
That was or Kadarius Toney to the Giants.
Toney to the Giants.
Yeah, that's such a weird situation there.
Yeah, it was the Travis Etienne not going to the Miami Dolphins was the shot heard around the world. Everybody freaked out.
All right, so we're pro Najee show here.
Yes. Let's move on to the wide receivers.
Yeah, let's talk about these wide receivers. I don't really want to, honestly, because
there's no right answer.
No, you can't be right. There's no way to be right here. We didn't talk about quarterback because my suggestion on Ben Roethlisberger is no, and if you end up in a bad situation, you can stream him in home games because he'll probably be okay.
Yeah.
Because of volume, but don't draft the guy. arm is falling off.
It hasn't fallen off already?
Yeah, it might have. I'm not sure. They might have had to like stitch it back on. I'm not sure. But yeah,
I mean, we all saw the picture of him just like completely taped up.
That was from like 4 years ago too.
Was it really? Good God.
Really?
Yeah, it's not even a recent picture. Like this dude has been like that for like half a decade, and he's still playing.
I mean, the man had Tommy John.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy because, like, Roethlisberger, he has been the quarterback of my favorite football team since I was in elementary school. Like, it's been a while. It's been a while.
Wow.
Like,
yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, he killed me in the Colts in that playoff game in, was it 2003 when he made that tackle on was that Belzler?
Yeah, shoestring tackle on the Bettis fumble.
The 94, the Steelers got us in the AFC champ. Yeah, it's been, and then the Raiders, and so I've had a long history with these Steelers.
Sorry to hear about it, Mike. All right, guys. Wide receivers.
Yeah, so
Herms. I would like Herms to rank them since they're. Oh, Walker, you seem to have something planned. So Walker.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I just want I want 1, 2, 3. What's your order of these guys?
All right, Herms, we'll start with you.
Okay, so the caveat here that is very, very important to throw in is that, like, the front office has been talking about the fact that, like, you know, they've been acquiring personnel with like they want to help Matt Canada install his system, which is a little bit, you know, strays from what the team has done in the past. And like until we know exactly how that's going to be implemented and we hear a little bit more from like beat writers, because like I really trust the people who cover the Steelers. They do a phenomenal job. Like that's the big thing there. Like for me personally, I will need some of that information from when actual camp starts to really get like the answers I think I need, because in Matt Canada, like if it's just his system right away, then it would be Chase Claypool would be best suited to be involved in that. But if it's more of a slow burn, you know, transition from like, you know, the past to the future, all that throughout the year, then it's going to be Deontay Johnson, because like, I don't care how many times he has dropped the ball, because guess what? People who get targeted a lot tend to drop the ball a little more often than people who don't get targeted a lot. That's just how things work. And, you know, you look at some names of players who've dropped the ball a similar number of times, you know, like DK Metcalf's name is up there. Do we hear people relentlessly just like, you know, crapping all over Metcalf for his drops? Like, no, not really. So just Mike Evans. Yeah, that's another one. So just like, I don't know, like there's just this whole, people want to dislike Deontay Johnson, so they just do. It's fine. Let him do it, because he's, you know, like, because the thing we were saying earlier, it's just like, you know, Ben can't throw the ball that far anymore. And, you know, it's been dwindling and dwindling over time to the point where, you know, like the best receiver in the Steelers, you know, offense traditionally, at least as we think of them in recent history, is not the big play guy, because like Ben can't throw it that far. So if it's more like the days of old, then it's Deontay Johnson number one, not particularly close. Then it's a little closer between Juju and Claypool, but I would tend to go with Juju Smith-Schuster at that point, because like the slot receiver for the Steelers, traditionally in recent memory, has been a fairly reliable person, even though the average depth of target is directly over the offensive line. But I mean, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, no, Deontay. So like, I think what happened was like they had the offensive line. They had Juju just run past the center, turn around, and then they had Deontay run behind Juju and turn around, because it was like Juju was like 4 yards downfield and Deontay was like 6 yards downfield for their A-dot. It was
they ran the classic double stick.
Yeah.
Juju Smith-Schuster's A-dot was 5.6 yards.
Oh boy.
It's not great.
Not good. No. Not great, Bob. Oh, so for the drops, we're talking about Deontay Johnson. This is perfect. I had a conversation come up this week about drops, and it was between me, I'm trying to figure out who's in here, Rotosurgeon, me, Akash, Frank Amarante, who he and I will never see eye to eye on a player ever, it seems. We looked at drops, and I did a thing where I was like, okay, the average player, I took out injury guys, I took out guys that retired, guys who weren't even in the league. on average, a guy lost about 15 targets if he ranked in the top 10 in drop rate. And I mean, Deontay has those to lose though. He had like 144 targets last year.
See, that's the thing. I have him projected for 125 targets this year. I think it's going to come down a little bit.
It has to.
I still have him wide receiver 27. He's not going to be bad.
Yeah, and those, by the way, and then my second half of that is guys who did that with at least 100 targets they lost about 12. And sure. Deontay, even if he's in line with that, he has those to lose. He has so many targets last year. It was insane. And I feel good about Deontay because I don't think that I mean, the perfect example that I'm looking at is our drops consistent from year to year. Evan Ingram had 10 last year, 2 in 2019, 2 in 2018, and 13 in 2017. It's like it's almost random. It's almost random. He can't have that many drops. And I think that the extra catches, the extra targets are going to be, or the targets lost are going to be offset by the extra catches. So he was good with the drops. I think he'll be good. I think he'll be, even if he loses targets, I think he'll still be good with the drops. But at the same time, I'm still talking about like my wide receiver 26.
Yeah. I mean, I have all of them between 27 and 32. I would draft Deontay the earliest because I think it's the likeliest he gets the most targets. I'm not gonna say
my dog didn't like that. You got the Frankie no. Frankie told you no.
I'm not gonna say that Deontay is or that the drops matter that much, but I don't think my eyes deceived me last year or on his college tape. I don't think Deontay Johnson is good at football, but I think he's pretty good at fantasy football.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Herms, you can correct me if I'm wrong. He is pretty good at getting open in the short area, but he doesn't do much with it. And Ben Roethlisberger's like, all right, I can work with this. And that's why he got so many targets. But he's just I kind of agree. He's there. He is I think marginally less talented version than Jarvis Landry on the Dolphins.
He's got better. I think he's got more juice, I would say.
Ironic given Jarvis.
Yeah, ironically.
Yeah.
But definitely similar usage. Yeah. It's definitely not a bad comparison. Like I think I would like to say I do not think he's bad, but the weird thing is, of those three receivers, I think Johnson is the worst wide receiver, but I would take him first in fantasy because they seem to pepper him with targets and Ben likes him.
Yeah.
And I think what's tricky is that the sample size we have for Deontay Johnson is a year with Mason Rudolph and a guy named Duck, and the other one is with a guy with a noodle arm. So it's like, I don't know. And like the other thing about him is the fact, like the thing I like about him the most is that like when you get him the ball in space, it's like, yo, watch him dance, man. But like sometimes you can see it like on his face where it's just like he's thinking a little too far ahead about what he's about to do, rather than, the whole look the ball into your hands thing sometimes. So like, but that's only sometimes. Like, I will, that's the part of the drop thing that I think is a reality, where it's just like, yes, sometimes you can see his brain's a little further ahead of where it should be, because it's like, nah, focus, do the thing, and then do the other thing. Like, it's a sequence, you have to catch the ball, then move. But like, I think he's very talented. I really do. It's just, I don't think we're really going to see what he can truly be until we know who the next quarterback of the team is going to be. And if that next quarterback of the team is good. Oh, no, we're not. No.
Do you know what? Do you want to feel good, Herms? I just remembered, it popped in my head a couple years ago. Remember we got in an argument, Mike, about whether Mason Rudolph or Dwayne Haskins was the worst quarterback in the league?
Yes. That was awesome. Yeah.
And to do a callback, the answer was actually Ryan Finley.
Yeah, I mean that's rough behind bed. So
no, I pretty much agree with you, Herms. Honestly, I think I would say yes, Deontay Johnson has bad hands. No, it's not that important.
Yeah, that was the conversation that I was having, where I was like, drops do not make you a bad player, but drops are a key component of bad players, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Deontay Johnson has an issue.
Yes.
But correct. I'll still take him in fantasy football if the price is right.
This is how I look at it. Okay, what kind of drops are they? Are they contested drops or are they focus drops? If they're focus drops, I'm more leaning to the fact that, okay, that can be fixable. If they're contested drops, then we might have a problem.
Yeah, his were mostly focus drops.
A lot of his were focus drops. It's true.
I'm just remembering him being wide open and him trying to catch the ball while running and kneeing the ball out of his hands. I'm just having this memory of him kneeing the ball out of his own hands when he was going to catch wide open. I think it was on a crosser, and I was just like, I think that might have been on the Tuesday afternoon game. I was like, what are you doing, Deontay?
I guess the good news is that he isn't Diami Brown. So as long as he's not Diami Brown out there, it's all good.
Wow. All right, let's rank them. And then we can get our sleeper breakers and breakouts and busts, and we can get on with this, because we have a patented 2-hour podcast on our hands, boys. Every time we go in, I'm like, let's do 90 minutes. And every time I walk out, I'm like, 2.5 hours. All right. Because we had to get the fear cast in. Don't forget fear sheets. Right. Fear sheets coming your way. Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster. That's the way they're coming off the board. My rank is probably Chase Claypool, then Deontay, then Juju, just because I really like Chase Claypool. I like Chase Claypool before the draft so much that I thought I was doing something wrong. Like, because I was looking around and nobody was talking about Chase Claypool, and I was like, what? He's Mike Evans with slightly with shorter arms. Like he does a lot of the same things in college, at least. In the NFL, it's like kind of.
I took the L on that one. I didn't see it, and I was wrong.
Yeah, but nobody was talking about Chase Claypool. Mm-hmm. Like he was like, everybody's like wide receiver 9, and I was like, he's like 4 for me. Am I doing something wrong? Like what am I doing wrong here?
No, you got it. You nailed it.
I nailed it. So all right, so that's I'm gonna stick with Claypool. Then a step down, the Deontay and Juju back to back. Those are my 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Since I usually go last, we'll Herms go last. So Walker will go to you.
I will go with Johnson, Claypool, Smith-Schuster.
Okay, Mike.
Johnson, Schuster, Claypool. Real quick reason why I believe Najee Harris is going to be carrying the ball quite a bit. They're going to be running wide because Ben Roethlisberger doesn't have an arm. So when you don't have a quarterback who can throw the ball, what are you going to do? You're going to run. And that's what Najee was brought over for. Number 2, Claypool is a deep receiver. So do we think that someone without an arm is going to be able to get it to Claypool quite often? Heck no. I do like Claypool's ability to run the ball. So I think that's going to really boost his value. But it's just going to be, when they throw, it's going to be short passes. And the short pass guys are Deontay Johnson or Juju Smith-Schuster. Who do I like better out of Johnson and Schuster? I like Johnson because he can do more with the ball than Schuster will be in the slot. So Johnson, Schuster, Claypool, pretty far back from Claypool, I think. I have him like 38-40.
Wow.
Okay. All right. It's just Ben's arm, it sounds like, is the big problem for you.
It's Ben's arm. If Ben was 10 years ago, I'd be all over Claypool. But
I
wish it was 10 years ago, too. I wouldn't have so many aches and pains.
I expect Claypool to have a quote unquote disappointing sophomore season, and then you're going to get him at an insane discount next year, and he's going to ball out
with Jimmy Garoppolo under center,
with whoever, just anybody who can throw the ball downfield. He's going to have a huge borderline wide receiver 1 season, and you're going to get him for cheap as hell.
He's good. So what he's going to be is every year is there's the wide receiver that the entire fantasy community is in on, but nobody wants to take before wide receiver 18. And that's going to be Chase Claypool next year.
Yeah, this year it's Cooper Kupp, except I'm not afraid.
I'm not afraid either. Wide receiver. Oh wait, he got dropped down. He was by wide receiver 8, but now he's 12. I don't know what happened here. Anyways.
Oh, you have him higher than me. I have him 13.
Look at this guy. All right, Herms, wide receivers. In which order would you take these guys?
All right. Well, okay. If it's a slow burn into Matt Canada doing his thing, then it's Deontay, Juju, and then Claypool for me. If they're just gonna do the Matt Canada thing from Jump Street, because that's a lot of play action, that's a lot of like weird end around stuff, because he likes to mess with the defense's mind and just disguise things. That's really what he's gonna try and do. Claypool will be perfect for that, and I would reverse that order. So, and Claypool, Juju is second no matter what.
Okay,
that's basically what I'm saying. So it really we can flip Deontay and Claypool depending on what happens. So honestly, I really encourage people follow what happens and what they're saying at camp, because like I said, they're one of the most well covered teams, and traditionally under Tomlin, they're a fairly truthful staff. They don't really.
That's true.
They don't really beat around the bush a lot. I mean, if you ask them a question, they will give you a fairly direct answer.
Tomlin,
and even if it's kind of vague, there's not a lot of lines to read through with them. So, we will know a lot in, 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to know very soon. Yeah, the season's really, really sneaking up on us. So, all right. So, tight end, do we care about Eric Ebron or Pat Freiermuth? One word.
No.
Mike?
No.
One word. This is the one word is for you, Mike. You're only allowed one word.
No.
Okay. All right. I'll give you 10 words.
Even would be acceptable because it sounds like pain.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Pat Freiermuth, no. Eric Ebron, almost assuredly, also no.
Yeah, he's closer. So, all right.
I have Ebron tight end 20, so still don't do it.
You want to talk about drops?
The man loves to drop the football.
Trust me. Oh, trust me.
Yeah, you don't have to tell Walker.
I know.
Oh, he knows.
Could you imagine a team?
Three guys. Ebron's burned Walker in Detroit, burned me in Indianapolis.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. What's up?
Jeff, get ready. He's going to the Niners.
He's going to San Francisco.
Dude, if the Niners rely on Eric Ebron, something's gone horribly wrong. I mean, I'm talking a car crash with Ayuk.
Kittle goes down. The Steelers trade him to you for a 5th-round pick at the deadline.
Oh my God, no! Do not put that evil into the world. All right, guys. Let's wrap this up. Just give me the names. I want a sleeper, breakout, and bust from this division from each of you guys. So whoever wants to go first can go first.
I'll let Mike go first.
I was not prepared for this.
Nobody.
Oh boy.
Somebody doesn't read the show notes.
I guess I missed that part. Sleeper, I'm gonna go Rashad Bateman. Bust, I will go. Can I say the quarterback now? Lamar Jackson.
Yes, you're allowed to pick that.
Mike's angling to get kicked off the show, as I think what this is.
What was the sleeper? So I got sleeper, bust, and what was the other one?
Breakout. So somewhere in the middle, whatever that means to you.
Oh wow. I guess breakout. Ooh, that's in this division. You just either got young or old.
I got an easy breakout for you.
T. Higgins.
There you go. T. Higgins is a good breakout.
All right, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Walker, what about you?
I will say bust. I'm gonna go Odell.
Okay.
Breakout. To me, that means kind of a guy who hasn't had a huge amount of success that kind of pops off kind of out of nowhere. I'll go with Burrow.
Okay.
For the breakout, and then sleeper, I gotta go with Gus Bus.
Gus Bus. Yeah, that's a good one. Herms, what about you?
Okay, OBJ is the bust is the free space.
Yep.
On the card. So I'm gonna go with that. And then breakout. I say this just relative to my insane levels of optimism. I'm still going to say Najee Harris qualifies, again, relative to my insane level of optimism. I think that counts. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And then, what's the other one? Sleeper. Yeah. Dude, I mean, I'm gonna move off Gus Bus because I feel like that's becoming less true every day. Because like people are coming around, man, and like good for them. Because I mean, like 700 yards at least is happening.
His ADP is RB40 now, which is not as far off as it has been in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like that will grow to a point where he will be unknown enough come out of it. Man, I don't know. Okay, well, I mean, I'm in the TV market for the Ravens. I know how this offense works. Even the Rashad Bateman, I think, is one of the I could see it working out well because there have been times in the past where Willie Snead was reliable enough for you as a flex, and I could see him filling that role and doing fine with it if they choose to use him that way, and that will be valuable. I like it. So yeah, you know what? Go for it. Those are my three answers.
Okay. So I'm trying to decide. I wrote an entire sleeper breakout and bust series. I mean, Odell Beckham, free space. There's that. But I think the guy that wasn't mentioned, we kind of beat around the bush with him. It's a guy who's going as a top 40 wide receiver who I don't think finishes anywhere near there. It's Hollywood Brown. We kind of beat around the bush with that.
Oh,
he did well at the end of the year.
He's going top 40?
Yeah, he's wide receiver 39 when I wrote this.
Yeah, that's a bust for me for sure.
Yeah, he did finish the year well, but it was still only.
It was a lot of blown coverages too.
Yeah, and it was only 4 catches for 56 yards. He just managed to clock a touchdown every game.
Yeah.
So Marquise Brown, I think his I mean, he'll be closer to what he did in the first half of or the first 10 games of last year, which was 3 catches for 43 yards a game. I think it'll be closer to that, but it's going to be like a 30-yard catch and then like a blown screen and then like a 10-yard catch. Like that's what it's going to be. It's going to be really annoying to watch. Sleeper, I guess I said Harrison Bryant is what I wrote about. That's interesting. And then I'm going to go with this. I'm going to go hot take. Eric Ebron. That's right. Sleeper tight end. He's 23 right now. He has had the most Ben targets last year.
There's no way he's 23 years old.
No, tight end 23. Yeah. Tight end 23. Tight end. Walker almost quit the podcast off that. No.
I was like, huh? Eric Ebron was a pro at 17?
No. He was tight end 23 right now. Okay. He had 91 targets last year, which is the most Big Ben's ever given a tight end not named Heath Miller. I looked into it. Who are you saying?
I can't. He said Heath.
Oh, Heath. I thought you went like I got one wrong. I was like,
what did I miss? Fan thing.
Yes.
Because Heath Miller would catch the thing.
Yeah, we do juice for use check, which sounds a little bit more problematic. But not it's no John Kuhn, which is the most problematic chant of all time.
Oh no! Please stop doing that, whoever you are.
Yes, but yeah, I mean, the average Big Ben wide receiver or tight end averages 71 targets per season, which I'm not saying that Eric Ebron's gonna be a top 5 tight end, but I think he's gonna go firmly in the top half of the blob when all's said and done, and he's going tight end 23. So I actually did have a reason for that. So that's my sleeper. My bust is Hollywood Brown. My breakout is T. Higgins. Because he'll be a top 20 wide receiver. I don't know. Yeah, that's what I wrote about. I shouldn't have gone last because I'm like, oh man, everybody took all the good guys. So I'm left saying Eric Ebron, T. Higgins, and who was my bust? Oh, Hollywood Brown. So, all right. So that's it. That's the AFC North. Herms, thank you for joining us. Why don't you go ahead and plug your pluggables? Tell the people where they can find you once again before we get out of here.
Hell yeah, my dudes. You can follow me on Twitter at HermsNFL. You can find my work with The Lateral at The Lateral FF. Check out the website, www.thelateralff.com. We have a YouTube channel that is a bunch of letters and numbers and
same
stuff.
with us.
Yeah, so it's one of those things. Like if you're compelled to find it, like you'll find it. It's just not going to be the easiest journey in the world. And then the Lateral Show podcast. Woohoo!
Yeah.
It's such a fun time. We just dropped our Scott Fishbowl preview episode, so check that out. I don't know when this comes out, so it might be a moot point if you're participating in the tournament. But regardless, I mean, like it's still a look. We touched on just because it's still a redraft league, so like there's still morsels of information in there. So like don't completely avoid it if this comes out at a point where it would be inconvenient for you to use it as a preview for the tournament itself. But I don't know, long-winded way of saying listen to the podcast.
It's a good. And, I listened to that episode today when I was out running errands. Even if you're not in the Scott Fishbowl, a lot of good stuff in there. A lot of good stuff in 100%. There. Yeah. So
yeah. And then the Rum Boys Fantasy Network. I'm always on Rum Boys After Dark on Friday nights. So it's if you want to see me do this but drunk, it's a good time.
All right, perfect. And I said it earlier this week. It's my Lateral podcast. Definitely check it out. It's my favorite new podcast. You and Malcolm do a great job. I love it. Yeah, it's I consider the Lateral to be like a sister project for us. So I thanks for having us on. I messaged Malcolm while we were on the podcast today. Say, hey bud, come on the Twitch stream because I feel bad I haven't had him on. So as for us, let's plug the site footballabsurdity.com. Player profiles are going up. Beer sheets are live as of today. Twitch.tv/footballabsurdity. No Monday episode this week. We'll be back on Wednesday with Kevin/you/beer sheets/bearded beer god, whatever you know him as. It's the man who brings you beer sheets. We're going to be debuting the beer sheet, and we will be doing that at probably about 4:00 Pacific on Wednesday. And we'll be back in 2 weeks in this feed with Kevin Masurgeon talking the NFC West, 4 weeks with Lindelians on Twitter talking the AFC West. So Herms, thanks for coming. Check everybody out. I'm Jeff Crisco on Twitter. Mike's RFL Red Zone. Walker's Big Daddy Drix. Herms is Herms NFL. The website is footballabsurdity.com. The patreon.com/footballabsurdity. So for Mike and Walker and Herms, who's doing a little dance, this is Jeff. Thanks for listening. Take care. Hit the dab one more time, Walker. All right, perfect.